Good evening and welcome back to the Heal Security Dispatch Deep Dive with Mark and Diana, your trusted source for the latest in cybersecurity trends and expert insights, proudly presented by Heal Security. Today is Friday, December 5, 2025. Today, we're embarking on a mission that it requires looking at cybersecurity threats in radically different timescales.
That's a good way to put it.
On one hand, you have the immediate operational crisis, the unexpected failures that just erupt when security defenses go sideways. But on the other, you've got these long-term, highly patient intelligence campaigns.
The state actors, the ones that live inside your network for years.
Exactly. And then sort of looming over all of it is the future. How AI is forcing us to fundamentally rethink how we even verify identity. So we've pulled the most critical need-to-know info from this week's sources for you.
And that tension you mentioned between speed and patience, that's really the defining characteristic of today's threat landscape. I mean, you have security teams just scrambling with this rapid-fire need to patch 0 days.
Which can cause instant instability, a real tightrope walk.
It is. And at the same time, they're being hunted by these incredibly patient adversaries, often state-sponsored, whose entire goal is just to maintain access, to hide in what we call digital camouflage.
Understanding both those speeds of attack and the need to manage both risks, it's absolutely crucial right now.
It really is.
Okay, so let's start with that tightrope walk. The immediate operational instability that can happen even when the intention is pure defense. Let's kick off with that massive Cloudflare service outage from earlier this week.
Yeah.
It's just a perfect example of a necessary security action immediately triggering an operational crisis.
It really was a stark reminder of how fragile that balance between security and availability actually is. Cloudflare's, a linchpin of the modern internet.
Sure.
So when they went down, it was just this widespread service disruption. Countless websites started throwing up those 500 internal server errors that everyone hates.
And the impact went deeper than just the customer-facing websites, which is the scary part. The cascading failure hit Cloudflare's own control systems.
Right, their dashboard, their API services.
Think about that for a second. Customers couldn't log in, they couldn't manage their DNS, they couldn't update firewall rules. Their ability to manage their own security was just locked out.
And we know the trigger, which is the paradox here. The cause wasn't some malicious breach. It was an emergency software patch they were deploying.
To mitigate what, exactly?
A pretty nasty industry-wide vulnerability. It involves React server components, and it's been tagged as React 2 shell. The vulnerability was deemed so critical, a true 0-day risk, that the patch had to go out. It was urgent.
So the intent was to secure their whole environment against a critical external threat, but the patch itself introduced instability.
Exactly. The engineers were on a hair trigger to fix a major security hole, but the rapid deployment introduced the bug that caused the global outage. Recovery involved, a ton of manual work.
Like what?
Well, rebalancing compute clusters, restoring internal APIs, bringing those control plane systems back online bit by bit. It just shows that even the most well-resourced teams are constantly negotiating risk.
What's worse, right? The slow, controlled risk from a patch, or the immediate uncontrolled risk of a known exploit?
That's the question they have to ask every single time. And it's the single biggest lesson for you, the listener, about balancing that risk management versus speed. Sometimes the cure is almost as painful as the disease.
Okay, so let's pivot from that rapid system instability to the data consequences. Let's look at the recent pharmaceutical company breach. It's a sharp reminder that disruption often comes packaged with confirmed data theft.
Yeah, this incident, it actually goes back to a ransomware attack from earlier in the year. But the recent news is what confirmed the data breach and the actual scope of the disruption.
And this breach affected a staggering number of people. We're talking more than 9,000 individuals.
And it's not just customers. The sources were very specific that this included current and former employees, their dependents, even people from firms they had previously acquired.
A huge net.
A huge net. And while the company hasn't detailed every single piece of data, when these ransomware gangs claim responsibility, their standard operating procedure now is to steal the data before they encrypt anything.
So they go for the crown jewels first.
Always. We're talking names, addresses, social security numbers, payroll info, comprehensive HR records, the really sensitive stuff.
And that sequence data theft first, then encryption. That ties directly into what we're going to talk about later with data loss prevention, or DLP. It means those 9,000 people are now facing a really severe long-term risk.
Absolutely. Because that HR and payroll data is gold for future identity theft. Forensic review and tightening controls are obviously essential, but the real damage It's already done. That data is out there.
It's a silent timer that starts ticking the moment that data leaves the network.
Precisely.
All right, here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. We're moving from these quick, tactical ransomware incidents to the quiet, slow-burn strategic threats, the world of state-sponsored persistence.
We are definitely shifting gears here. We're going from transactional crime to strategic intelligence collection. U.S. cybersecurity authorities have been flagging a really serious ongoing campaign that uses a malware suite called BrickStorm.
Which is linked directly to Chinese state actors.
That's right. And their targets aren't random at all. They're deeply focused on organizations in legal services, manufacturing, and technology.
And why those three sectors specifically?
Because the core objective here isn't a quick payday or disruption, it's about strategic advantage. Legal firms have IP data, merger details, manufacturing has blueprints, and tech firms, well, they hold the keys to future innovation.
So the goal is long-term persistence, maintaining deep, undetected access for months, maybe even years.
Exactly. It's access that can be activated later for intelligence gathering or, for strategic positioning in some future conflict.
That patience is just chilling. So how do they actually pull it off? How do they achieve that level of stealth?
Well, our sources say the initial entry often exploits edge devices and known vulnerabilities. They specifically call out VMware vCenter servers and virtualization management software. They're going right for the foundation of the infrastructure.
And once they're inside?
That's when the digital camouflage begins. They deploy custom implants, hidden web shells, the whole BrickStorm malware suite. But their key technique, it involves manipulating the virtualization layer itself.
Okay, what does that mean? Manipulating the virtualization layer.
We're talking about manipulating or even cloning virtual machines or VMs, systematically clearing system logs, command histories, and creating this multi-layer persistence that's designed to survive reboots or even full patch cycles.
When you say they're manipulating the hypervisors and VMs, what does that practically mean for a company's ability to even trust its own environment? What's the real difference between an attack on the OS versus the hypervisor?
It means the adversary is hiding beneath the operating system level itself. The hypervisor is the software that runs all your virtual machines. If the attacker owns that, they can run rootkits that your OS security tools can never, ever see.
They're invisible.
Essentially. They can spy on or manipulate every single virtual machine without leaving a single trace in the logs of those VMs. The whole intrusion just blends into normal system management workflows. It just looks like a poorly configured IT environment, not an active attack.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare scenario. If the camouflage is that good, what's the weakest link? How do authorities even track them at all?
That is the big question. And usually it comes down to really nuanced network traffic analysis, looking for command and control patterns that don't fit.
Yeah.
But most importantly, it's about performing rigorous integrity checks on the hypervisors themselves.
You have to verify the hypervisor hasn't been modified.
You have to. You have to be sure it hasn't been swapped out with a malicious version.
So what's the urgent advice authorities are stressing for organizations to counter something like BrickStorm?
The recommendations are rigorous, and they need to happen immediately. Conduct thorough patching. Enforce multi-factor authentication, or MFA, everywhere. Perform those detailed integrity checks on the hypervisors. And critically, you have to enforce strict separation between your management networks and your general workloads.
Don't manage your infrastructure from the same network your staff uses.
You're just handing them the attack vector if you do.
Okay, let's look now at how defense is evolving to meet these sophisticated, often automated threats. I'm talking, of course, about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we've really hit a defensive pivot point here. The whole focus is shifting to the defensive response to these highly convincing AI-enabled threats.
Like deepfake audio, real-time voice cloning.
Synthetic identity fraud, video manipulation. All of it is being used in phishing and social engineering attacks on high-risk channels like phone calls or video conferences. The tools are getting so good that relying on human judgment or even traditional content filters, it's just not enough anymore.
And that's why we saw that cybersecurity startup launch publicly this week after securing a hefty $28 million in venture funding.
Right, specifically to address this new threat vector. That investment just underscores how seriously the market is taking this AI impersonation problem.
So what's their innovative approach?
Well, what's so interesting is that they're moving beyond content analysis. Because content analysis fails now. The AI output are perfect replicas. You can't visually or audibly tell a deepfake from a real person anymore.
So you have to pivot entirely.
You have to pivot to observing the environment, what they're calling the non-forgeable digital signals.
Non-forgeable digital signals, that's the key phrase. Give us some examples of what they're looking for, things an AI attacker can't easily mimic.
So they're looking at the digital exhaust of the interaction, things like device fingerprints, network metadata, interaction patterns, behavioral irregularities.
So the system might detect that the video feed is coming from a virtualized network, not a physical phone.
Exactly. Or that the speech cadence doesn't match historical patterns for that person. The device fingerprint essentially tells you if the source is a real physical device held by a person or just a digital construct being controlled remotely.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, identity-centric social engineering is just an escalating danger because attackers can now scale the emotional leverage they use.
And the market is responding. The enterprise interests, those huge funding rounds, they all confirm that this behavioral and metadata-based defense is the necessary future.
Speaking of market trends, let's circle back to data loss prevention, DLP. That pharmaceutical breach is one of the big drivers here.
It is. Market analysts are projecting that enterprise spending on DLP tech is set to grow substantially. It's expected to reach over $10 billion by the end of the decade.
That's huge growth. What's driving it? It feels like DLP has been around for years.
It's really a confluence of factors.
Yeah.
First, just the sheer exponential amount of data being generated, especially with cloud and SaaS platforms. Second, traditional perimeter controls are failing because of hybrid work. Data is everywhere now.
And then there's the regulatory pressure.
And finally, yes, tightening regulatory requirements for data protection are forcing companies to invest more.
So the demand is for smarter DLP, solutions with automation, AI-based classification to know what's sensitive, and integrated cloud security controls.
Precisely. The days of a simple network-based DLP solution are fading fast. The future is about sophisticated classification and real-time monitoring across every single environment where your data lives.
Okay, finally, let's quickly cover two critical patches you should be aware of right now, starting with NVIDIA's Triton Inference Server.
This is a big one for anyone running production machine learning pipelines. High-severity flaws were disclosed in Triton that allow an attacker to cause a denial of service or DOS condition.
And they can do it remotely, without authentication.
That's the problem. They just need to send a specially crafted or oversized input request, and it crashes the service.
And since Triton often powers critical real-time ML workloads like recommendation engines or fraud detection, that DOS attack could cause immediate business outages.
The advice is clear. Upgrade immediately. And on top of that, enforce best practices. Enforce request validation. Put these servers behind API gateways. Don't expose them publicly if you can avoid it.
And the second patch involves Splunk Enterprise, specifically on Windows.
Right. Security researchers found a common misconfiguration in some Windows installations of Splunk after an upgrade or a new install. It led to overly permissive directory permissions.
So the risk here is local privilege escalation. A non-admin user on the machine could exploit this to read or modify sensitive configurations, logs, or scripts.
Exactly. And given the kind of detailed operational data Splunk handles, that is a serious internal risk if an attacker gets even small foothold on a machine. Remediation is simple. Update to the patch release or just go in and manually correct those file permissions right away.
What a profound spread of threats we covered today. I mean, from the instability created by rapid patching and the Cloudflare incident to the chilling patience of state actors using BrickStorm, and then this necessary pivot to behavioral security models against AI deepfakes.
A lot to cover.
It is. And it leaves me with this one thought for you to take into the weekend. Given the rise of these patient, long-term state actors like the ones using BrickStorm who prioritize stealth over rapid action, how should organizations redefine success in detection and remediation if you can't eject them immediately? Is success simply making it so difficult, so noisy, or so slow to maintain access that they just move on to an easier target?
That's a difficult question to wrestle with.
Yeah.
The game has really changed from immediate defense to the persistent management of deep intrusions.
We're grateful for your time and hope you found today's insights valuable. Join us again on Monday for more expert updates and critical cybersecurity news. Remember to like, subscribe for ongoing coverage and analysis, and sign up for a free trial of Heal Security Desktop at healsecurity.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and keep your digital world secure.